What if I told you that every single thing that feels like it's falling apart in your life right now is actually falling into place? There's something happening in your reality that most people miss completely. They see the chaos, the unexpected changes, the doors closing, the relationships shifting, and they think they're going backwards. But what if I told you these aren't setbacks? They're setups. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you one specific phrase that has been used by quantum physicists, ancient mystics, and modern neuroscientists to literally rewire reality. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how to recognize when the universe is already speaking this phrase through your life, and you've been missing the message entirely. If you can feel something shifting in your bones right now, if this message found you at exactly the moment you needed to hear it, hit that subscribe button. The algorithm didn't bring you here by accident. When you align with content that speaks to your soul, you're essentially telling the universe, yes, send me more of this frequency. And trust me, you're going to want to be part of this journey. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the most beautiful breakthroughs come disguised as breakdowns? How the most profound clarity arrives right after your most confusing moments? This isn't coincidence. This is the universe speaking a language that most people never learn to understand. Here's what they don't teach you in school, what your parents probably never learned, and what most self-help books completely miss. Reality isn't fixed. It's not some solid, unchangeable thing that happens to you. Reality is actually a conversation. A living, breathing dialogue between your consciousness and the quantum field that surrounds us all. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every word you speak sends out what scientists call coherent electromagnetic frequencies. These frequencies don't just disappear into nothing. They interact with the zero-point field, that invisible matrix of pure potential that quantum physicists have discovered underlies all of physical reality. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most people are having this conversation unconsciously. They're sending out mixed signals, conflicting frequencies, and then wondering why their reality feels chaotic and unpredictable. They say they want love while believing they're unworthy. They say they want abundance while feeling guilty about money. They say they want success while being terrified of their own power. The phrase I'm about to share with you cuts through all of that noise. It aligns every part of your being, every frequency you're broadcasting, into one coherent signal. And when that happens, reality has no choice but to respond. Before I give you the phrase, you need to understand something crucial about how manifestation actually works. Most people think it's about positive thinking or visualization or writing in gratitude journals. And while those things can help, they're missing the deeper mechanism. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each one capable of forming thousands of connections with other neurons. Every experience you've ever had, every belief you've adopted, every emotion you've felt has created specific neural pathways in your brain. These pathways become like highways of thought, automatic patterns that your consciousness follows without you even realizing it. But here's what neuroscientists have discovered in just the last decade. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's actually happening and what you're vividly imagining. When you imagine something with enough emotional intensity and sensory detail, your brain fires the same neural networks as if that experience were actually occurring right now. This is why trauma can be so persistent, even years after the original event. The neural pathways keep firing the same patterns, creating the same chemical responses in your body, attracting the same types of experiences. But it's also why this phrase is so powerful. When you use it correctly, you're literally interrupting those old patterns and installing new ones. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has spent decades studying the intersection of neuroscience and consciousness, explains it like this: if you can't think greater than your environment, you become a victim of your environment. But if you can think greater than your environment, you become a creator of your environment. Now, this might sound like new age fluff to some people, but what's fascinating is that this understanding isn't new at all. Ancient cultures knew this secret and built entire spiritual practices around it. The Hebrew word abracadabra, which most people think is just a magic trick phrase, actually comes from the Aramaic phrase avracadabra, which means, I will create as I speak. The ancient Hebrews understood that consciousness and speech were creative forces that could literally shape physical reality. In the Sanskrit tradition, they had a concept called spanda, which means the creative vibration that gives rise to all manifestation. They believed that every sound, every word, every intention was a wave in the ocean of consciousness that would eventually return to shore as physical experience. The Hermetic tradition gave us the principle as above, so below, teaching that what happens in the realm of consciousness, above, must eventually manifest in physical reality below. They weren't speaking metaphorically. They understood this as a fundamental law of the universe. Modern quantum physics is now proving what these ancient traditions always knew. Werner Heisenberg, one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics, said, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." In other words, the act of conscious observation literally influences the behavior of matter at the quantum level. But there's something even more profound happening here. Recent studies in quantum biology have shown that consciousness might not be produced by the brain, but rather that the brain might be more like a receiving antenna for consciousness that exists as a fundamental field of the universe. If this is true, and the evidence is mounting that it is, then consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull. It's a field that you're constantly interacting with, influencing, and being influenced by. And that field responds to the coherence and clarity of your intention. If this is starting to click for you, if you're feeling that tingle of recognition that comes when truth resonates in your cells, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because what I'm about to share next is the practical application of everything we've just discussed. This is where theory becomes transformation. There's something else happening here that I need you to understand. Every person who finds this message is being called to remember something they already know on a deeper level. You're not learning something new. You're remembering something ancient. Are you ready for this? The phrase is deceptively simple, but its power lies not in the words themselves, but in the consciousness you bring to it. Here it is. I am exactly where I need to be to become who I'm meant to be. Now, before you dismiss this as too simple or too familiar, let me explain what's actually happening when you speak this phrase with full presence and belief. First, the words "I am" are perhaps the most powerful words in any language. When Moses asked God for his name at the burning bush, the response was, "I am that I am." In Hebrew, this is Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, which can also be translated as "I will be what I will be." This isn't just a name. It's a statement about the nature of consciousness itself as the creative force behind all manifestation. When you say, "I am," you're not just describing yourself. You're invoking your power as a conscious creator. You're claiming your identity as an expression of the same creative intelligence that formed galaxies and grows forests and beats your heart without you having to think about it. The phrase "exactly where I need to be" does something profound to your nervous system. It shifts you out of resistance and into alignment. Resistance is the enemy of manifestation. When you're fighting against what is, when you're convinced that your current circumstances are wrong or bad or preventing you from having what you want, you create internal conflict that scatters your energy. But when you can genuinely feel that you are exactly where you need to be, something miraculous happens. Your nervous system relaxes. Your energy becomes coherent. Instead of broadcasting the frequency of "this is wrong, I need to be somewhere else," you start broadcasting the frequency of trust, alignment, and divine timing. This doesn't mean you become passive or accept things that need to change. It means you stop fighting reality and start dancing with it. You become a conscious collaborator with the intelligence that's orchestrating your life, instead of a victim who thinks life is happening to you. The final part, "to become who I'm meant to be," is where the real magic happens. This phrase acknowledges that everything you're experiencing, even the difficult things, even the things that don't make sense yet, are all part of a larger pattern of growth and becoming. Your soul, that eternal aspect of your consciousness, came here with a specific purpose, a unique gift to offer the world. But in order to fully embody that purpose, you need to develop certain qualities, overcome certain limitations, and integrate certain experiences. What looks like obstacles to your personality are actually opportunities for your soul. When you repeat this phrase regularly, something fascinating happens in your brain. Remember those neural pathways we talked about earlier? The ones that keep you stuck in old patterns of thinking and feeling? This phrase starts to create new pathways. Dr. Rick Hanson, a neuropsychologist who studies how we can use neuroplasticity for positive change, explains that the brain has a natural negativity bias. It's wired to focus on problems, threats, and what's wrong, because this kept our ancestors alive in dangerous environments. But this same wiring now keeps us focused on lack, fear, and limitation. When you consistently affirm, "I'm exactly where I need to be to become who I'm meant to be," you're literally rewiring your brain to look for the purpose and perfection in your current experience, rather than the problems and deficiencies. But here's the crucial part. You can't just say the words. You have to feel them. You have to drop into the truth of them. Because your brain and your reality don't respond to words. They respond to the emotional state that words create. Think about it this way. When you're in love, you don't have to convince yourself to feel happy when you see your beloved. The feeling is automatic because the neural pathways associated with love are activated. Similarly, when you've really integrated this phrase, you don't have to convince yourself that everything is perfect. You feel it in your bones. Now, here's where things get really interesting. When you achieve this state of coherent alignment, when every part of your being is broadcasting the same message, you start affecting what researchers call the field. The HeartMath Institute has been studying this phenomenon for decades. They've discovered that when a person achieves what they call heart coherence, a state where the heart, mind, and emotions are in sync, they actually begin affecting the electromagnetic field around their body. This field extends anywhere from 8 to 15 feet around you, and it can actually influence the heart rhythms and brainwave patterns of people nearby. But it goes even deeper than that. Some researchers believe that this field of coherent intention can influence what they call the morphic field, the invisible web of information that connects all conscious beings. This is why certain people seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, relationships, and synchronicities. It's not just positive thinking. It's coherent thinking. It's alignment thinking. It's the kind of thinking that comes when you truly know in every cell of your body that you are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. Once you start living from this phrase, once it becomes more than words and becomes your actual experience of reality, something magical starts happening. Synchronicities begin to multiply. Doors open. The right people show up at the right times. Resources appear just when you need them. Carl Jung, who coined the term synchronicity, described it as meaningful coincidences. But what he understood, and what most people miss, is that synchronicities aren't random gifts from the universe. They're the natural result of a consciousness that has learned to work in harmony with the deeper patterns of existence. When you're in resistance, when you're fighting what is, when you're convinced you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you create what I call synchronicity static. Your energy is so scattered and conflicted that you can't tune into the subtle signals that are always trying to guide you toward your highest good. But when you're aligned, when you truly know that everything is happening for you, not to you, you become sensitive to the universe's way of communicating. You start noticing the patterns. You start trusting your intuition. You start saying yes to invitations that your logical mind might reject, and you start saying no to opportunities that look good on paper but don't feel right in your body. One of my favorite examples of this comes from the field of quantum biology. Scientists have discovered that birds don't navigate using just magnetic fields, like they originally thought. They actually have quantum sensors in their eyes that can detect individual photons of light. This allows them to see the Earth's magnetic field as a kind of shimmering overlay on their normal vision. When you're living from this phrase, you develop something similar. You start to see the invisible currents of possibility that are always flowing around you. You develop what I call synchronicity vision. Now, I need to warn you about something. Your ego, that part of your mind that thinks its job is to keep you safe by keeping you the same, is going to resist this phrase. It's going to come up with all kinds of logical objections. But I'm not where I need to be. I'm struggling financially. But I'm not where I need to be. My relationship just ended. But I'm not where I need to be. I hate my job. This is normal. This is expected. Your ego has invested years, maybe decades, in the story that your current circumstances are evidence that something has gone wrong, that you've made mistakes, that you're behind where you should be. But what if those very circumstances are exactly the catalyst you need to develop the qualities your soul came here to develop? What if your financial struggles are teaching you about your relationship with worthiness and abundance? What if your relationship ending is clearing space for a love that you couldn't have recognized or received in your previous state of consciousness? What if your job dissatisfaction is the universe's way of pushing you toward your true calling? The mystic Rumi wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" Here's something most people don't understand about resistance. It's not just emotionally draining. It's physically exhausting. When you're fighting reality, when you're convinced that what's happening shouldn't be happening, your nervous system goes into a chronic state of stress activation. Your adrenal glands start pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. Your immune system gets suppressed. Your digestive system shuts down. Your body thinks it's under attack, so it diverts all its energy toward dealing with the perceived threat. But here's the thing. The threat isn't real. You're not actually in danger. You're just in a situation that your ego has labeled as wrong or bad, or not what I want. When you shift into the consciousness of, I am exactly where I need to be to become who I'm meant to be, you literally change your body's chemistry. Your nervous system shifts from sympathetic activation, fight or flight, to parasympathetic activation, rest and digest. This is the state where healing happens, where creativity flows, where intuition becomes clear. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist who has studied the relationship between consciousness and gene expression, has shown that our beliefs literally control our biology. When we change our perception of our circumstances, we change the signals our brain sends to our cells, which changes how our genes express themselves. This means that this phrase isn't just changing your mindset. It's changing your biology. It's changing your health. It's changing your capacity to attract and recognize opportunities. Now I want to share something with you that might stretch your current understanding of reality, but stay with me because this is where the real transformation happens. In quantum physics, there's a concept called parallel realities, or multiple dimensions. The idea is that there are infinite possible versions of reality existing simultaneously, and which one you experience depends on your consciousness, your vibration, your point of focus. Right now, there's a version of reality where you're struggling, where you're stuck, where you're frustrated with your circumstances. But there's also a version of reality where you're thriving, where you're aligned with your purpose, where everything is flowing effortlessly. The difference between these realities isn't your external circumstances. It's your perception of those circumstances. It's the story you tell about what they mean. It's the emotion you bring to your experience. When you say, I'm exactly where I need to be to become who I'm meant to be, and you really feel it, you're literally shifting from one-dimensional reality to another. You're moving from the dimension where you're a victim of circumstances to the dimension where you're a conscious creator of your experience. This isn't just philosophy. This is physics. The quantum field responds to observation. It responds to intention. It responds to the coherent energy of consciousness that knows its own creative power. I want you to pause for a moment and really feel into this. Can you sense the truth of what I'm sharing? Can you feel how different your energy becomes when you drop into the knowing that you are exactly where you need to be? In the comments below, I want you to share one thing about your current situation that you've been resisting, and how you might view it differently if you truly believed it was perfectly designed to help you become who you're meant to be. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Sometimes we become the teachers we needed when we were struggling. Knowing this phrase intellectually isn't enough. You need to embody it. You need to make it your living reality. Here's how you do that. First, you need to identify the areas of your life where you're still in resistance. Where are you telling yourself that things shouldn't be as they are? Where are you waiting for circumstances to change before you can be happy, peaceful, or fulfilled? Maybe it's your living situation. Maybe it's your relationship status. Maybe it's your health, your finances, your career, your family dynamics. Write them down. Name them. Because you can't transform what you won't acknowledge. Then for each area of resistance, practice reframing it through the lens of this phrase. Instead of, I can't believe I'm still single at my age, try, I'm exactly where I need to be in my relationship journey to become who I'm meant to be. Instead of, I should be further along in my career by now, try, I am exactly where I need to be professionally to develop the qualities my soul wants to develop. This isn't about lying to yourself or denying that you want change. It's about shifting from resistance to collaboration with the intelligence that's orchestrating your life. When you make this shift, when you really embody this phrase, something beautiful happens. Your energy changes. Your presence changes. The way you move through the world changes. And this affects everyone around you. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities start showing up. Synchronicities multiply. It's as if the universe was just waiting for you to stop fighting the current and start swimming with it. But here's what's really happening. When you're in alignment, when you're broadcasting coherent energy, you become like a tuning fork. You start resonating at the frequency of your desires rather than the frequency of your resistance. And the law of resonance, which is even more fundamental than the law of attraction, brings you experiences that match your new frequency. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, love, and abundance, while others struggle despite working incredibly hard. It's not about worthiness or luck or being chosen by the universe. It's about alignment. It's about coherence. It's about living from the truth that you are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. There's something else I want you to understand about this phrase and why it's so powerful. You're not just a random individual trying to create a better life for yourself. You're part of a larger awakening that's happening on this planet right now. Humanity is going through what many spiritual teachers call the Great Awakening. We're remembering who we really are. We're remembering our power as conscious creators. We're remembering that we're not separate from the intelligence that creates galaxies and grows forests. Your personal transformation isn't just about you. When you heal, when you align, when you step into your true power, you contribute to the healing and alignment of the collective consciousness. You become part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. This is why the phrase is so important right now. We're living in times of tremendous chaos and uncertainty. Many people are feeling lost, afraid, disconnected from purpose. But what if all of this apparent chaos is actually a cosmic reorganization? What if humanity is exactly where it needs to be to become what it's meant to become? The caterpillar doesn't understand what's happening when it begins to dissolve in the chrysalis. All it knows is that its familiar world is falling apart. But what's actually happening is that it's being transformed into something magnificent, something that can fly, something that can see the world from an entirely different perspective. As you begin working with this phrase, you need to understand that integration takes time. You're not just changing your thoughts. You're rewiring neural pathways that have been established for years or even decades. You're shifting lifelong patterns of perception and response. Be patient with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Some days you'll feel completely aligned with the phrase, and your reality will seem to flow effortlessly. Other days, you'll feel like you're back in the old patterns of resistance and struggle. This is normal. This is part of the process. Think of it like building a muscle. When you first start exercising, you get sore. Your body resists the new demands you're placing on it. But over time, with consistent practice, you get stronger. The resistance decreases. What once felt impossible becomes natural. The same thing happens with consciousness. When you first start living from this phrase, your ego will resist. Your old patterns will reassert themselves. You'll have moments of doubt, fear, and confusion. But if you stay committed to the practice, if you keep coming back to the truth of these words, something magnificent will happen. One day, you'll realize that you're no longer saying the phrase to convince yourself it's true. You're saying it because you know it's true. You've moved from belief to knowing. From hope to certainty. From seeking to being. This is when the quantum leap happens. This is when your external reality begins to shift to match your internal transformation. But here's what most people don't understand about quantum leaps. They're not sudden, dramatic changes in your circumstances. They're sudden, dramatic changes in your perception of your circumstances. You might wake up one morning in the same house, with the same job, with the same relationships, but everything feels different. Everything looks different. The same circumstances that once felt like obstacles now feel like opportunities. The same people who once annoyed you now seem like teachers. The same challenges that once overwhelmed you now feel like adventures. This is the quantum leap. This is what happens when you fully embody the truth that you are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. Here's the ultimate truth I want to leave you with. You already are who you're meant to be. The person you're trying to become, the life you're trying to create, the love you're trying to attract, the abundance you're trying to manifest. It all already exists within you as potential. Your soul didn't come here lacking anything. It came here whole, complete, perfect. Your journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been underneath all the conditioning, the fear, the limiting beliefs, the stories about not being enough. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've faced, every moment of joy and every moment of pain, has been designed to help you remember this truth. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And this human experience, in all its messiness and beauty and complexity, is exactly what your soul chose to accelerate its evolution. The phrase, "I am exactly where I need to be to become who I'm meant to be," isn't just a tool for manifestation. It's a statement of truth about the nature of your existence. It's a recognition of the perfection that's orchestrating every moment of your life, even when you can't see it, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it hurts. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to understand that everything I've shared with you isn't just theory. This is a living practice. This is a way of being in the world that will transform every aspect of your experience. Start today. Start now. Whatever situation you're facing, whatever challenge you're navigating, whatever dream you're pursuing, bring this consciousness to it. Stop fighting what is. Stop resisting your current circumstances. Stop waiting for external conditions to change before you can access your power. Instead, drop into the deep knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. Feel it in your body. Let it calm your nervous system. Let it open your heart. Let it clear your mind. And from this place of alignment, from this place of trust, from this place of collaboration with the intelligence that's guiding your life, take your next step. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to trust that the step you're on is the perfect step, and the next step will reveal itself when you're ready. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Every person who resonates with this message is part of a global awakening. We're all remembering together. We're all healing together. We're all ascending together. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. It's been waiting for you to claim your power as a conscious creator. It's been waiting for you to stop seeing yourself as separate from the intelligence that breathes you and beats your heart and grows your hair. That time is now. That place is here. You are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. And who you're meant to be is absolutely magnificent. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust yourself. Trust the phrase. And watch as your reality begins to align with the truth of who you really are. The journey continues, the transformation deepens, and the magic unfolds. Welcome home to yourself.